But who exactly are we referring to? Surely you've guessed by now. That's right, this is the internet-breaking punch-up of none other than Tommy Fury versus Jake Paul. Who? Jake Paul is boxing's new obsession. Some love him, some hate him, and some love to hate him. Just look at Jake Paul here. He certainly seems like a vicious puncher.
What he wants to do in there, working behind the cage.
Big right hand that lands.
He's hurt.
Jim is hurt. And now he's down again. And that is it. Jake Paul with a first round destruction.
Snoop Dogg is singing the hymns. He's trying to get out of the ring.
Indeed, you might be forgiven for thinking this man seems somewhat terrifying. Just look at that shredded physique. But the truth is, many in the fight world are unconvinced by Jake Paul's boxing abilities. Some say he has yet to face a real professional boxer, and as such, this fight with Tommy Fury will finally put his name to the test. Just take a look at the stats. Tommy Fury, half-brother of heavyweight world champion Tyson Fury, is a formidable force with 7 wins to his name, 4 by knockout and 3 by decision, against a total of 0 losses. Anyone who steps into the ring with a member of the Fury family knows they are up against a winner. And at 22 years old, this boxer has nowhere to go but up. Plus, at 6 feet, Tommy has plenty of height and reach on his side. Yet both stand with similar boxing experience. Fury is 7-0 with 4 knockouts, and Jake with 4 wins, including 3 devastating knockouts. So despite their differences, there seems an even spread between them. Jake Paul is the younger brother to YouTube celeb turned professional boxer Logan Paul. You must have been living under a rock with your head in the sand if you missed this one. That's right, this was the devastating fight that saw Logan Paul face up to one of the greatest of all time, Floyd Mayweather himself. And how did it end? Much to the surprise of fight fans across the world, this one ended in a draw.
It's crazy. I did the impossible already.
Can you believe it? Logan Paul, although pretty new to the sport of boxing, must have done a fantastic job by managing to land a draw against one of boxing's all-time greatest. After taking Mayweather the distance for 8 excruciating 3-minute rounds, Paul is now continuing his rampage in the fight world. Logan has made it publicly clear that he intends to fight Mike Tyson next. Logan has allegedly said himself very clearly, "I would beat Mike Tyson." It cannot be understated just how shocking this intention is. I mean, Mike Tyson? Seriously? Iron Mike is perhaps one of boxing's all-time biggest villains. Some have questioned how Logan Paul could possibly be so confident about this fight, but then again, who knows? Perhaps he really does stand a chance. But what about Tommy Fury? Well, as we all know, Jake Paul is not the only young boxer with an incredibly successful older brother in the sport. The infamous Fury dynasty needs no introduction, especially when your older brother is the Gypsy King himself, recently crowned heavyweight champion of the world. Many in the fight world widely consider Tyson Fury to be the greatest heavyweight of this generation. It's also clear to see that the Fury DNA runs strong in the young Jedi.
Good shot. Nice right uppercut.
Successful here tonight in his professional boxing debut, Tommy TNT Fury.
No disrespect to any other titles, I'm in this to be a world champion. I'm 19 years old, just turned. I'm in no rush at all, and I'll get there.
That's just warning about punches around the back. Oh, that's another terrific shot. Big right hook, down he went, and I think that might be it. Now he's had enough, as they say, and all over in the first round. Tommy Fury says, yep, I've had fame in Love Island, but I am a fighting man, and this is his return to the ring. Straight away, looking for Binyenda. Big attack from the opening bell, and the right hand puts him down.
That's a good right hand there from Fury.
And the referee says enough is enough. Binyenda, I don't think, through one.
The only thing separating these two is Jake Paul's 2 years of age over Tommy, so it's fair to say this is as even a spread as you're ever likely to come across in professional boxing. Tyson Fury himself seems to agree in his alleged comments. I wouldn't consider it Jake fighting a boxer. It's Jake the reality star turned boxer versus Tommy the reality star turned boxer. But however their journey started, how do these two actually match up in the ring? Just take a look at them both here. Both have incredible physique and conditioning under their belts. Looking at their boxing histories, we can see where all the confidence comes from. Tommy Fury's second professional fight against Callum Ide had a memorable finish. In the first round, and at 19 years old, Fury fended off Ide's early advances and was able to push his opponent back into a corner until a clean body shot looked like the end. But Ide survived the count and was back in action. However, Fury's repeated offense proved that his punches pack power, and Ide conceded during the second and final count. Looking at how this fight was won, many fight fans feel Jake Paul barely stands a chance against these kind of tactics. But perhaps they have underestimated the stamina and power of Jake Paul. Take the Problem Child's pro boxing debut against Ali Ihsan Gibb. The tone was set with a confrontational weigh-in whereby the two had to be separated by security. The grappling continued throughout the one-round fight, but Gibb was knocked down again and again until the referee called it for the hurt Gibb. Just look at the power on this knockout punch here. That's pretty explosive.
Doing there, working behind the chin.
Big right hand that lands.
He's hurt.
Gibb is hurt. And now he's down again. And that is it.
Nate Robinson was next up on Jake Paul's hit list and demonstrated stunning speed and aggression. Paul was on the back foot for once and fought more defensively, doing everything he could to stay out of the corner. But a misstep by Robinson gave Paul the opening he needed to plant a right hand to the back of the head. Despite a consultation with the referee, Robinson insisted on continuing. The gamble would prove fruitless. Paul put him down again with the same move in just the second round. People were quick to dismiss Paul's debut as beginner's luck, but with a devastating second victory under his belt, critics were wondering whether Ben Askren was doomed to be the Problem Child's third knockout. Indeed, fate smiled down on the digital superstar that day. With more than a minute on the clock, a jab and a straight sent the former wrestler Askren crashing down to the canvas. Indeed, the way this fight ended sent shockwaves through the fight world. Many have been starting to wonder, could Jake Paul really be a serious boxing contender? But when it comes to power, perhaps that really is no comparison to some of Tommy Fury's subsequent fights. Fury's second knockout also came early, with Przemysław Binyenda going down in the first 62 seconds. Fury by name and Fury by nature. He sprang from his corner with a flurry of punches and put his opponent down with a right-hander. Despite the breaks, Emelianenko was unable to throw one serious punch, leaving the referee no choice but to end the onslaughts early.
Straight away, going looking for Emelianenko. Big attack from the opening bell on the right.
For his third KO, Fury met an even stronger opponent. This time, Gennady Krejcevski was able to survive until the second round and was even able to keep Fury on his toes. But Tommy's punches were too heavy too fast, and a right uppercut put an end to the fight once and for all. Just look at this finish.
Super shot that finishes the job, really. He's on his way down after this shot. Great shot there with that right uppercut, well measured. And that's a good performance for...
As if that wasn't enough, gaining a fourth knockout was only a matter of time for the undefeated young Fury. Scott Williams was vicious with formidable swings and evasive footwork. This was perhaps Tommy Fury's most advanced opponent yet, and saw him fend for himself against a higher standard of boxing technique. Despite Williams' boxing intelligence and agility, he was no match for Tommy here. 2 rounds in, and Williams was out of places to run. Tommy's punches were starting to land much more cleanly on his opponent, and it was only a matter of time before Fury detonated this brutal knockout punch here. It's no surprise that Tommy is confident he will likely continue his streak for ending fights early. So far, it's clear that Jake Paul has ferocious power and speed, and many have been surprised at just how far Paul has come in the sport of boxing already. But looking at Tommy Fury's fighting style, it is apparent that Jake Paul will have to seriously shape up to stand a chance on this one. Looking at Paul's most recent fight, this becomes even more apparent. Enter Tyron Woodley. Certainly the oldest and largest opponent Paul had faced, it seemed Tyron's nickname of the Chosen One might signify an end to Paul's winning streak. The duo exchanged stunning combinations. Paul even fell onto the ropes, and they stayed engaged in the corner until the bell rang. Round 5 of 8, and Paul was looking worse for wear, whereas Woodley was composed, in control, and leading the fight. Despite all this, there was no KO in sight. By surviving the 8 rounds, Paul accrued enough points to scrape this 4th consecutive win. Not bad, but hardly the dramatic finish we were all expecting. Another point of note in this fight is that Jake Paul's last 2 opponents were ex-MMA fighters, whereas Fury is on more familiar ground in his experience going toe-to-toe with proven professional boxers at this level. As to be expected with the mischievous internet prankster, Paul has set a condition for the match, tweeting from his account off of a joke Tyson made himself, whereby if Tommy loses, he will be forced to change his last name. Paul suggests that if he is the victor, then Tommy should become known as Tommy Fumbles for a whole year. Alternatively, if it's Tommy who stands victorious over Paul, then he will receive a $500,000 bonus directly from the Logan bank account. Indeed, boxing trainer Sugar Hill Stewart himself has noted Jake Paul's skills despite the boxer's relative inexperience. Whilst at a press release promoting the fight, Stewart remarked that Jake Paul looks to be doing very well in boxing. Stewart was the main trainer during Tyson's own path to world title, so it's strange that Tommy Fury has sworn not to fly back to the US to train with the same man. Instead, Tommy will reside in the UK to rely on Tyson and Father John for his preparation. Still, Fury predicts he will stand victorious in just 2 rounds, while Paul believes he will be the victor in the later end of the match. But what do you think? Is the knockout power in Tommy Fury's DNA simply too strange to be evaded? Or will Jake Paul surprise the world by taking out the Gypsy King's younger brother and finally earning the fight world's respect in this brutal sport of boxing? Stop what you're doing right now and let us know what you think in the comments section below. If you haven't already, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and right-hook that bell icon to keep up to date with future videos. Finally, to see what happens when a real master in MMA goes up against a proven professional boxer, click the link in the description box.
This fight came as a huge surprise to the entire fight world. It's safe to say no one expected these two to actually step into the ring with each other. But that's exactly what happened here in this devastating exhibition. If you know anything about boxing, you probably already know who we're talking about. That's right, this is Jake Paul versus none other than Tommy Fury, otherwise known as TNT.
are the moments that I wanted to go through. You know, I say I want to fight Canelo, so all of these moments leading up to that are just rounds in the bank, experience, you know, getting ready for those bigger moments where I'm going to be pushed by tougher guys. So that, you know, that's what we wanted. I wanted to get pushed to the test a little bit in a real fight under the lights. And 15 seconds after that, right before the round ends, I throw a big overhand right and wobble him. And you see the same thing happen. Like, I catch him, he falls into me.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's a huge fight between me and him. It is a really big fight. Obviously, you've got him and all his USA fans, and me with all my UK fans. You know, it's USA, UK. It's a big fight. And obviously, you've got my last name, which is a big name in boxing. A lot of viewers will tune in, you know, just for that, because, you know, a Fury name is a household name in boxing at the minute. Thanks to the big man. So yeah, it's a great fight, but make no mistake, get August 29th out of the way, and then we'll look towards big.
And still undefeated, the problem child, Jake Paul!
We know what you're thinking. Many critics in the fight world have accused Jake Paul of not being a real boxer, but that all stops today. Just take a look at what this guy has achieved so far.
You're never gonna make it, you're not good enough. There's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different? Man, you must be kidding. Think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible, it's not probable, you're irresponsible. Too many obstacles, you gotta stop it, yo. You gotta take it slow, you can't be a pro, don't waste your time no more. Who the fuck are you to tell me what to do? I don't give a damn if you say you disapprove. I'm gonna make my move, I'm gonna make it soon. And I'll do it cause it's what I wanna fucking do. Cause all these opinions and all these positions, they come in millions, they blocking your vision. But no, you can't listen, that shit is all fiction. Cause you hold the power as long as you're dreaming. There's no way that you make it, and maybe you can fake it, but you're never gonna make it. Are you just gonna take that? Make them take it all back. Don't tell me you believe that. Are you just gonna take that? Or will you fucking fight back? Fight back.
Just look at how this guy takes out his opponents. For someone who started off on Disney, that's a pretty incredible transformation. In fact, the thing about Jake Paul is, the more people call him a joke, the more serious he seems to train. Each time he fights, he seems to go to great efforts to take out his opponents with such shocking force, as if to prove to the world that he is in fact a real man. But how does that compare to Tommy Fury? We'll take a look at this guy here. This is the face and body of a serious fighter. Why do we say this? Well, boxing is literally in Tommy Fury's blood. As a member of the Fury family, no one can deny he was pretty much born for success in the ring. If he has any of his brother's skill, there's no doubt Tommy will be a serious contender in boxing for years to come. Just look at him here.
Oh, good shot. Nice right uppercut.
Successful here tonight in his professional boxing debut, Tommy TNT Fury.
No disrespect to any other titles, I'm in this to be a world champion. I'm 19 years old, just turned. I'm in no rush at all, and I'll get there.
Just warning about punches around the back. Oh, that's another terrific shot. Big right hook, down he went, and I think that might be it. Now he's had enough, as they say, and all over in the first round. Tommy Fury says, yep, I've had fame in Love Island, but I am a fighting man, and this is his return to the ring. Straight away, going looking for Binyenda. Big attack from the opening bell, and the right hand puts him down.
That's a good right hand there from Fury.
And the referee says enough is enough. Emelianenko, I don't think, through one.
Absolutely incredible. It's not difficult to see that boxing is in this young man's genes. At the tender age of 22, Tommy already has an impressive record of 7 professional fights and 4 devastating knockouts. You can't argue with that. That's a pretty solid start for this young athlete. But just how does he match up against Jake Paul in the ring? Well, if Tyson Fury is the Gypsy King, you can be sure that Tommy is the Gypsy Prince. Just look at how he dealt with Anthony Taylor here back in August 2021. Tommy absolutely toyed with this guy. In fact, it was pretty surprising given just how much trash talk Anthony Taylor put out in the run up to the fight.
You're going to war. I'm going to take you to hell with me. I'm gonna dictate this fight wherever it goes. I'm a fighter. I'm an MMA fighter. It doesn't matter about weight class to me. I can bare knuckle with anybody in the world. I don't care about dying. And that's the thing.
That's not what you said before, though.
Yeah, I don't care about dying.
But Tommy has a gypsy's heart for sure, as he was completely unintimidated. In fact, he seems to have a warrior's ability to cut through all the crap talk and use it as fuel to wreak absolute destruction in the ring.
Still undefeated, Tommy. TNT Fury.
The significance of this is clear when you consider just how much Jake Paul likes to use trash talk to intimidate his opponents before a fight. This is a real strategy Paul likes to use to promote himself and get inside his opponent's head. Just look at the way he spoke to Ben Askren here.
I'm trying to wait for you to stop talking. Okay.
This is a fucking fight game, you pussy ass bitch. This is the fucking fight game.
Jake, if you and I ran into each other in the back alley in Las Vegas and I wanted to do a homicide,
do it right now then. We're running into each other right now. Come on.
I'll write your material if you want me to.
English, please.
If you want me to write your jokes, I can do them for you.
If I want you to read my jokes. This guy's talking about my intelligence.
The thing is, Jake Paul says some pretty wild stuff, but does it make a difference? Well, you would be forgiven for saying maybe when looking closer at how this fight actually played out.
Jean-Pascal and also cruiserweight contender.
This was an undeniably devastating knockout that sent ripples throughout the stadium. The way Askren took this hit had fight fans across the world concerned for his well-being. At this point, it's pretty clear that Jake Paul's trash talking may actually have some influence over his opponent's ability to face him toe-to-toe. But for Tommy Fury, it's unlikely this will have any effect. As we've seen, he's dealt with these childish strategies before. Not to mention he has the DNA of real warriors flowing through his blood. But what about the actual boxing ability of these two young fighters? Well, looking closer at Jake Paul, he has a professional record of 4 fights and 3 shocking knockouts. That's certainly a way behind Tommy Fury's 7 fights. It's safe to say Tommy is the more experienced fighter, and perhaps that shows in his boxing style. If we compare this to Jake Paul, it's difficult to say just who's the superior boxer. We do know that Jake has some fantastic power punching abilities.
So, I see somebody's having a little bit of something to say. Mr. Jake Paul, you can fight me anytime, any place, anywhere. All you've got to do is get in touch.
One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do.
He boxes because he was told to do so by his dad. He doesn't have that real heart, that real fighter inside of him. If we ever get into the ring, I'm gonna expose him for the that he is.
Tommy said that you crossed the line when you brought family and girlfriends into the argument, that he is going to break every bone in your face.
Tyson Fury's younger brother, Tommy Fury, and yourself, you guys have kind of gone back and forth a little bit on social media. He says he wants to fight you. What do you think about that?
I think it's great. You know, I think that's definitely a huge fight. A massive, massive fight. Ooh, the UK versus US. You know, we're both around the same age, and I would be more than willing, you know? 2 undefeated guys, 2 young bucks going at it.
Listen, I asked him if he wanted to fight and he ran away scared, didn't he? Jake Paul's nothing to me. I have hard spars in the gym every single day. You know, going on the pads with my dad every day in the gym is harder than what Jake Paul will ever test me against. You know, if he's got a pair of knackers, you know where to come and see me.
And still undefeated, Tommy TNT Fury.
For your next fight, have you got any message to Jake Paul?
There is no excuses, no running, no hiding. I want you next year, bum. Let's get it on.
Fight fans, here we go. It's time for the bout you've all been waiting for. There was stagger. Jake Paul. Boston is dug up. Another right hand. And still undefeated, the problem child, Jake Paul.
I'm sick of running. There's no more running now. There's no more excuses. Let's get it on next.
What's good, Simon? You need to stop the running, my friend.
If you want this fight, I'm here and I'm ready to go. There's no running, there's no playing. I'm here. I've done my part tonight. He's done his part tonight. Why not make it next? It's the fight that's on the tip of everyone's tongue. Nobody wants to see him fight another MMA kid. Why not come up against the pro boxer?
What do you want next? You know, I think Tommy Fury is probably the top of that list. He's skilled, he's undefeated, and he's a real boxer. I don't really have anything to say to him, you know? At the end of the day, I hired him to be here. I gave him an opportunity to shine. Will we see that fight? I would run that shit easy. You know, that's easier fight than Tyron, in my opinion, but
Jake Paul is just the shit house. He won't ever fight me because he hasn't got a pair of balls, and that's just it.
I want to continue to challenge myself and push myself with each one of these fights, and I'm the real deal. Then people will see that.
These were some huge hits and certainly took the media, but also the fight world by storm. YouTube star. In fact, Jake Paul has mostly dominated his professional fights so far, perhaps with the exception of Tyron Woodley. However, some critics have taken issue with his choice of opponents. This is because he has yet to fight a proven boxer. Instead, Paul's previous opponents are made up of a YouTuber, Ali Gibb, a former basketball player, Nate Robinson, and two former amateur wrestlers and MMA fighters, Ben Arskin and Tyron Woodley. No one questioned the athletic ability of any of these men, but some fight fans have been asking a very interesting question. Why has Jake Paul not yet fought a professional boxer with a proven track record? Well, Tommy Fury is certainly a proven boxer. This man, and he shows genuine boxing technique in his fighting style. This is a man who is mastering the basics. Just look at his excellent jab and footwork. Not bad for 22 years old. But how does Jake Paul match up in terms of boxing technique? Well, some fight fans have actually accused him of being sloppy in his style. In fact, it's alleged that despite his punching ability, he still lacks a decent level of boxing technique and intelligence. But does it really matter when you can demonstrate time and time again an insane power punching ability that could finish off numerous opponents who have no proven track record in the sport? Tricky question, but how does Tommy Fury score in terms of his knockout ability? Ouch. The thing is, overall, there doesn't seem to be much evidence in favor of Jake Paul coming out on top of this fight. Some fight fans suggest he might get lucky and catch Tommy with an early knockout punch, but it's likely that Tommy is trained for this. Not only has he shown the agility and footwork to avoid being hit, but if he's anything like his brother, he can survive being hit by some pretty hard punches and still come back to absolutely dominate the fight. Just look at how Tyson Fury dealt with being hit by perhaps the hardest hitting heavyweight boxer in existence today, Deontay Wilder.
By Wilder.
If tradition is anything to go by, the Fury family can survive being hit with some of the biggest punches in heavyweight history and still go on to absolutely decimate their opponents. So what do you think? Is Jake Paul about to destroy Tommy Fury's career with his proven power punching ability against those with no boxing experience? Or is Tommy Fury more likely to use boxing finesse to put on a fantastic show and absolutely end Jake Paul's boxing career? Stop what you're doing right now. Scroll down and let us know what you think in the comment section below. And for some real insight into the greatest fighters of this generation, click the link in the description below. Finally, make sure to like, subscribe, and uppercut the bell icon for future updates to our videos. we want to leave you with one more foreboding evidence of Jake Paul's boxing abilities.
Just be careful now. Stop. No.
Oh my God.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Okay, all right, let's go on.
Oh, makes me want to puke. Bro, he is a hyena.
Get up!
They don't have an outlet. I know, it's weird. Let go! Let go! We gotta do stuff today! How to say, here we go, before I do this.
No, you big dummy. We got Andy.
Look at this kid! That is my boy! Confirmation! $5,000. That's my fault! Yeah! That's my boy! That's disgusting! Woo!
Fight fans across the world have been eagerly awaiting this one since the day it was announced. Indeed, as this fight involves one of the greatest boxers of all time, the anticipation has been truly huge. Many had suspected that this boxer had actually already retired, which is what makes this fight even more of a shock to the fight world. But just what are we talking about exactly? That's right, you got this. This is Manny Pacquiao, the Pac-Man legend, versus Errol Spence Jr. Manny Pacquiao is arguably one of the greatest boxers of all time. Just take a look at him here. The way this man fights is absolutely extraordinary. To say that he has a sixth sense for the sport of boxing would be an understatement for sure. Look at the way this man moves. See the way he times his punches perfectly? At Fight World, we tend not to be superstitious, but Pacquiao seems to have a psychic's ability to always know what his opponent will do next. When you watch this man fight, there's a level of focus that can be seen on his face which is rarely exhibited in other boxers. It was almost as if this is what Pacquiao was born and designed for: insane boxing warfare. But at the age of 42 years, does he really still have what it takes to face off the current WBC and IBF welterweight champion Errol Spence Jr.? We're talking about one of the most elite welterweights out there right now. Well, to answer that question, we need to take a closer look into Pacquiao's boxing history. That said, it's difficult not to get lost when considering his outstanding fight record. This is a man who has 71 fights under his belt, 62 wins, and 39 by devastating knockout. Out of these 71 fights, the Pac-Man has only 2 draws and 7 losses. But who exactly did he lose to? This comes as no surprise to any seasoned fight fan out there. Most of us will remember perhaps one of the most legendary fights in all of boxing history, which, as it happens, was also one of the top pay-per-view boxing fights to have ever taken place, generating an estimated $4.6 million US. Which fight was this? That's right, you remember it well. This was the day Manny Pacquiao stepped in the ring with Floyd Mayweather Jr., the then undefeated 5-division world champion, in the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Paradise, Nevada, 2015. In this fight, we saw both men exhibit some of the best boxing our planet has ever seen. As you could see here, both men moved like ninjas in the ring for a staggering 12 whole rounds. Fight fans across the world were given 12 whole rounds of elite-level boxing. In this fight of the century, Mayweather Jr. won the contest by unanimous decision, with 2 judges scoring it 116 to 112 and the other 118 to 110. Most expected Pac-Man to dominate the early rounds, since Mayweather had built a reputation for starting fights slowly as he feels out his opponent. But according to boxing critics, Mayweather had Pacquiao right where he wanted him from the opening bell. Mayweather actually decided to go on the offensive, peppering Pacquiao with blows while avoiding any substantial damage. Pacquiao had a brief flurry in the fourth round where he tagged Mayweather with consecutive substantial blows. But pretty soon it became apparent that anything short of a knockout would mean a win for Mayweather. His defense was on point, and Pacquiao was chasing shadows. Pacquiao enjoyed a few more moments where he connected with the occasional shot on Mayweather and looked like he might turn the fight around. In the end, those were only brief respites as Mayweather sucked the life out of the clash and seemed to suffocate Pacquiao's offense. The thing is, for Pacquiao to lose against Mayweather is no huge failure. At the time, these were perhaps the best boxers on the planet, at least within their category for sure. There was even a rumor that Pacquiao had fought with an injured shoulder, which means we possibly didn't even see our Pac-Man at his best. If we compare that to Errol Spence Jr., well, let's take a look at his record. He currently boasts 27 fights with 27 wins and 21 by annihilating knockout. All this at the tender age of 31 years. And that's right, you heard us correctly, so far 0 losses. Just take a look at how Spence dealt with his most recent opponent here. This was when Spence dealt with the infamous Danny Garcia back in 2020. 2 judges scored it 116 to 112 for Spence, with the other at 117 to 111. This was Spence's third title defense on his home turf, and Spence went the distance for the third straight time to beat Garcia, who boasts a whopping 36 fights, 21 knockouts, and now only 3 losses. The first 2 rounds were mostly quiet until Garcia appeared to throw and land a left hook just after the bell ended the second. Garcia appeared to slip early in the third, with the referee signaling it was not a knockdown. Garcia did not appear hurt, but did need treatment for a small cut on the bridge of his nose after the third. Spence tried to attack through the middle rounds, with Garcia ducking under a few of the harder punches while grazing Spence's head with a wild right hook as the Texan leaned back to avoid the swing late in the 5th round. Both fighters landed several punches in the most intense stretch to that point in the middle of the 8th round. Spence pinned Garcia on the ropes with a series of blows before Garcia escaped and steadied before the end of the round. Overall, we thought this fight was a fantastic display of Errol Spence Jr.'s insane boxing ability. You can see here he dominated most of the fight with excellent movement and footwork. This guy is young, fresh, and efficient. Even when conceding punches, Spence shows he has a strong chin and is able to retain composure throughout the rounds. This is pretty evident in almost all Spence's fights. We can consistently see the same ability to hit hard and rarely get hit back. Spence's punches tend to connect with pretty dramatic effect, bludgeoning his opponents with a force that wears them down round after staggering round. It's pretty obvious that Spence is a force to be reckoned with and not an opponent to be taken lightly. So how will this match up against our Pac-Man legend? It's hard to say. Obviously, there is the initial age difference, which is pretty dramatic. We all know that age plays a significant role in boxing, and in fact, many claim this is what led to Klitschko's losses to both Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua in previous years. One could argue this is a good example of what happens when a boxing legend grows old. They simply cannot match up against the division's fresh, hungry upstarts. But given Manny Pacquiao's boxing prowess, do we really believe this man will be bettered by a young champion like Errol Spence Jr.? Especially given that this time, Pacquiao will have no shoulder injury and will no doubt be entering the ring in the best possible condition he could be in. Well, Errol Spence Jr. will be no walk in the park for sure, and Pacquiao will do well to remember that Spence has yet to lose a fight. But with a staggering 62 fights under his belt, experience may just see Pacquiao come out on top. I mean, let's be real. At this point, he's seen it all before. Been there, done that, and knocked out the t-shirt. There are rumors about what might happen if Pacquiao wins this one. Some claim that Pacquiao may be looking for a win here so that he can go on to set up a rematch with his former rival Floyd Mayweather Jr. It's hard to say whether this would ever happen, given that Mayweather has since retired. Mayweather officially hung up the gloves in 2017 after he beat UFC superstar Conor McGregor, 33, in 10 rounds. But he has twice returned since, both in exhibition bouts, most recently against YouTuber Logan Paul, 26, in an 8-round pay-per-view spectacle. So what do you think? Who would likely win in this deadly face-off between Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence Jr.? Let us know in the comments section below. If you know anything about boxing, make sure you check out the link in the description below for a detailed breakdown of more of this sport's greatest. In the meantime, don't forget to like, subscribe, and left hook the bell icon for future updates to our videos. There's only one fight boxing fans care about right now. The outcome of this one has truly changed the heavyweight division and has ramifications on the entire sport of boxing for good. Indeed, if you missed this one, you must be crazy. This is the mesmerizing body snatcher, aka Dillian Whyte, versus Tyson Fury himself, or as you may know him, the Gypsy King. The fact that Dillian Whyte is from South London was the only clue that Whyte might actually finish this the way he did. Just look at him here. No one can deny his resilience and mental toughness in the ring. This is a man who has proven time and time again that he can withstand some of the biggest punches in the division, only to quickly return the favor and body snatch his opponents into absolute submission. One thing you'll never believe, Dillian Whyte has spent hours sparring with some surprising names to prepare for this fight. Stay tuned to the end of this video for some amazing footage of Whyte sparring with Anthony Joshua. And if you're wondering why they call him the Body Snatcher, look no further.
In defeat to Derek Chisora in 3 rounds. Dillian Whyte will want to make a little statement of his own.
Purchase your tracks today.
Oh, and he might just do that with a right to the body, and then he followed up.
Nice danger.
Look at the force of these punches. Take a minute to appreciate the sheer power this young man can detonate with his fists. It's fair to say when this man lands his heavy artillery, there's only one way his opponent is leaving the ring. That's right, out cold in a body bag. Absolutely terrifying. One thing everyone loves about Whyte is his brute toughness. One need only look back at his titanic brawl with Derek Chisora himself to see just how hard it is to knock this guy down. This was the fight that saw two absolute giants with extreme power unleash their full force on one another. Indeed, these two went toe-to-toe and blow-to-blow continuously throughout the fight, trading heavy artillery and devastating weaponry for round after round. At this point, it's fair to say not many would dare step in the ring with this savage South Londoner. Fight fans spread rumors that Whyte is an absolute gentleman outside of the ring. That may be so, but judging by his ring presence, we wouldn't want to test this hypothesis. Absolutely terrifying. Indeed, Whyte puts the capital G in gangster. But how exactly does the body snatcher match up against the living legend Tyson Fury? Indeed, many are quite clear in their assertion that Fury is obviously the greatest heavyweight boxer of all time. Fight fans have claimed that Whyte's biggest challenge will be Fury's newfound ability to detonate his right hand to achieve these enormous knockout punches. This was clearly exhibited in his most recent trilogy fight against the lethal Deontay Wilder. You must have been sleeping under a rock with your head in the sand if you missed this.
All night, we will learn a lot. Oh, 1-2, like Fury. No, let go. Fury came in that Fury landed a beautiful right hand at the end of the round. But Wilder was really getting the better of it there. Another right hand. And Wilder, down goes Wilder. Fury put him down with the right hand.
Wilder showed in the first two fights. Wilder's got to get
Right hand by Fury, and down goes Deontay Wilder.
big shot by Tyson Fury.
Natural strength. Fury throwing the right hand. And that's it. It's over.
Fight fans knew that Fury spent considerable time training with Sugar Hill Stewart himself in order to gain this kind of knockout ability. Given Fury's enormous frame at a staggering 6'9" and with enough back fat to roast enough potatoes to feed your entire street at Christmas, a knockout punch from this man is not to be understated. Just look at the sheer size of Fury. Could anyone withstand a knockout blow like this? Well, many argue that Dillian Whyte would easily take this punch and stay on his feet. It's not clear whether this is accurate. The last time Whyte faced a true champion was back in his vicious onslaught against the well-muscled and absolutely devastating Anthony Joshua here. Dubbed as one of the most powerful heavyweights of all time, Anthony Joshua proved a formidable opponent for the body snatcher. Despite putting up an incredible fight, Joshua simply managed to overpower Whyte, and in the end, these huge punches proved simply too much for our warrior from Brixton, South London. Just look at how some of Joshua's punches landed here.
Now jabbing it. We get to see Joshua nails it with a left hand. Whyte in trouble over. Again it was the left. Whyte comes through. Joshua sticks his tongue out at Whyte. Went survival mode here. Here already. Got a hold. Whyte's got a hold. He's got a hold. He's ready. He's on there. There's it from Whyte. But the legs are betraying him, and down he goes. Surely no way up here. But Whyte, it's stopped. It's over.
This was absolutely devastating. If Whyte was unable to take these punches from Joshua, does he even stand a chance against Fury? Fight fans have actually dismissed this argument. They claim Whyte has improved drastically since this time. In fact, they point to his most recent victory against Povetkin as a perfect display of Whyte's new and improved technique. Far from simply resorting to brute force and strength, in this fight, Whyte exhibited phenomenal footwork and jab execution. Indeed, he played his cards perfectly to open Povetkin up before detonating his signature body-snatching punches. Just look at how he dealt with Povetkin here.
He looked a bit wobbly and uncertain. That one caught him anyway, and he was definitely wobbly and uncertain.
Right from the get-go. No, that was a really good stoppage. As I've said about Victor Loughlin, he's a top referee, and that was a good stoppage.
But the legs had gone again, and that's a heavy old knockdown, and Victor Loughlin saw the eyes.
He's been a great champion in the past.
Trademark Dillian Whyte left hook finishes this one.
It's fair to say that's a significant improvement. Not such an easy fight for Tyson Fury after all. In fact, many suggest that if Whyte fights like this again, we may see a repeat of the shocking knockdown Steve Cunningham achieved against Fury way back in 2013. Don't tell us you've forgotten when this happened.
Yeah, it's very important he controls it. Oh, there we go. Cunningham looked for that right hand over the top. Fury is down. Second time in his career, he is badly shaken. He didn't see it coming. And there is a...
It's this kind of detonating power punching that Whyte is capable of, and it goes without saying Fury would need a chin of steel to withstand this kind of force. The problem is, Tyson Fury is no novice. In fact, with 31 victories on his professional record, 22 of which by devastating knockout, it will take a lot more than a lucky punch to dethrone this Gypsy King. Back in 2019, Fury dealt with a similar opponent who tried hard to land that lucky punch. This was when Otto Wallin cornered Fury back against the ropes. In this moment, it seemed only a matter of time before Fury went down to the canvas. But Wallin forgot one thing. As the Gypsy King, Fury has an uncanny ability to take the red pill and enter the Matrix at any given time. Just look at this incredible head movement here. This kind of defensive movement harks back to the times of such greats as Muhammad Ali, who is similarly known to be just as elusive. Not only that, but when faced with deadly power punchers, Fury has proven simply unstoppable. Looking back at how Fury dealt with Vladimir Klitschko, you can see how he uses technique and boxing IQ to outwit his power-punching rivals. Indeed, Klitschko, the long-reigning European champion, was left nothing short of confused against Fury's intelligent movement, lightning-fast jabs, and unbelievable feinting. This made it impossible for Klitschko to detonate his signature weapon, his explosive right hand. Up against Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte faces a similar challenge. Indeed, Dillian will need a perfect game plan for this one to come out on top. In the words of Frank Warren himself, Tyson is absolutely champing at the bit. He wants to make a statement in front of a record crowd, and I believe he will. This country has never seen anything like Tyson Fury before. He's just had an epic trilogy with the hardest-hitting heavyweight of all time and come out on top. He will be determined to give every paying fan a night they will never forget. But what do you think? Does Tyson